Today I'm back in our MG ZS 180. This car hasn't appeared on the channel pretty much since we got it, so I thought it was long overdue an update video. Now, part of the reason that you haven't seen the car for so long is we took a long time getting together an awful lot of parts to basically fix the car's many faults. So it's now pretty much a transformed car versus when you first saw it. We have new belts on the car, new water pump, we've had all the fluids changed, it's got all new brakes, that's discs and pads on all four corners, we've got an anti-roll bar which is actually now connected, that's nice, and I've sorted a lot of little niggles like the heater in here not working and just a whole host of other things. So suffice it to say, it is now a much better car. The other reason that you haven't seen it for a while is that Laurie had a small issue or two with his MR2 and then his 106. So basically this car got pressed into service at very short notice as Laurie's new daily, so he was using it, putting the miles on it, and basically we just didn't really have the time to do anything with it. But I've pinched it off him for a couple of hours so I can do this video for you guys. Now, you've seen that title and I bet you're sat there thinking, well, that's clickbait if ever I've seen it. But no, I promise you it's not, and here's why. It's pretty well known that MG, Rover and Honda were pretty much in bed together for quite some time. And it was more or less a running joke that the MG was basically an old Rover and the Rover was an old Honda. And Hondas were generally derided by much of the UK public as Grandad's car. And that meant this thing never had the best of reputations. In fact, only two types of people really ever bought these. The elderly and the youth wearing Burberry caps who wanted something a bit loud and a little bit fast and a little bit rude and edgy that wasn't very expensive. And MG knew, I think, that that was their crowd. That's why many of their cars started sprouting these pretty big wings and flared arches and all that sort of stuff. However, underneath that exterior there lies some pretty decent componentry. Everyone knows that the ZS is a sporting version of the Rover 45. The 45 is an evolution of the older Rover 400. The Rover 400 is a British version of the Honda Domani. The Domani is essentially a saloon version of the 5th generation Civic. Now, the 3rd generation Honda Integra also used this Civic as a base, and that's the generation that introduced the legendary DC2 Type R. In fact, that Integra and the 5th gen Civic are so closely related that you can even swap engines between them with ease. Okay, the ZS is not a DC2 clone, I know that, but both it and the Integra genuinely are developments of the same base car, that 5th gen Civic, so the family connection is very real. And what's more, way back when, people may have taken the mickey out of this for being, oh, it's just a Honda. Yeah, but in the early 1990s, Honda were building cars with a double wishbone front suspension and a multi-link rear. That means this is really, properly nice to drive. It's got half decent tyres on it now. Now, these are a very sporty summer compound, so I'm not going to take the mickey too much today, but it's a beautiful car to drive. And I think it's very much a case of badge snobbery that you talk to anyone about the MG ZS 180 nowadays and, well, just look at the comments that I got when I bought one and all you get is people telling you, oh, it's just a Rover, oh, you idiot, oh, it's some silly old Honda or something. Well, when I see people talking about the DC2, I don't really see them taking the mickey. I see people saying things more like, greatest driver's car ever made, or best Honda ever. And no, I'm not suggesting that this is basically a DC2 clone, but you can swap a lot of parts with them. And if you've checked the classifieds recently, DC2s, they are not cheap. These, however, you can pick up a pretty damn good one. A Mark II even for, £2,000 is going to buy you a nice one. And they were available with a 4-cylinder K-Series engine, which, yes, has a reputation for doing head gaskets. It was, however, also the lightest 4-cylinder engine in production at the time, certainly for its power. That's the reason that both Lotus and Caterham really, really loved it. It was a fantastic pairing for the cars that those companies made, the Elise and, of course, the 7. Now this one has a 2.5 litre V6 stuffed under the front. It's nicked out of the Freelander of the time. It's not the most powerful engine at all. It's only about 180 horsepower and it's hardly a screamer, but it provides adequate power. And this whole car is not that heavy. I might get it on a weighbridge at some point, but I wager this is well under 1,300 kilos. And that means your power to weight ratio is not too bad. And it's an enjoyable car to drive. It doesn't have that peaky, crazy VTEC top end that, of course, something like a Type R is going to, but it's got a different character. It's a nice car, and I think it's something of a shame that these have basically been snubbed. And I think there's one simple reason for that. Let's be honest about this. It's because it's British. If you're in America and you have a car that's made and built in America, generally it'll get brownie points just for that fact. You go to France, they like French cars. Go to Japan, they love Japanese cars. Go to Germany, look on the Autobahn, Audi, VW, BMW, Mercedes, that's all you'll see. I go abroad, I play a game called Spot the Brit. So you go to somewhere like Germany, see how many Jaguars you see. Not very many. And unfortunately, the British, we are a very, very self-deprecating nation. Just look at the reviews of the Rover 75 when it came out. That was a great car. People really, really liked it. Now, a lot of people rated it as better than the equivalent BMW. But it was a Rover. People weren't interested in how good it was. They were interested in the badge on the front. That's a real shame, and some of you are probably already aware of this and some of you are not, but MG and Rover had a little skunkworks project. They actually built a version of the 75, almost the definition of the pipe and slipper saloon car, and they chucked a Mustang V8 in it. In fact, it's a complete reworking of the car because they had to convert a front-wheel drive car into a rear-wheel drive car. And don't tell me they aren't people that clearly loved what they were doing. Unfortunately, it wasn't very quick. It's only a 260 horsepower engine. Not really a lot for a V8, is it? But I think it's the fact they did it is just as important as what they did. But yeah, being British, we love to take the mickey out of ourselves. We hate anything made in Britain. We're very, very derisory. Look at British comedy. We just hate ourselves. We take the mickey out of things we make. And this car and this company was a victim of that. For a brief while, when MG had been revived by the Chinese, it was still made at Longbridge. That factory is sadly long gone now. It's an empty husk. And that's a tragedy because, you know what? This is not the best car in the world, but it's damn good fun and it's damn good value. So if you're currently sat there and you're thinking, you know, I fancy something a bit of fun for the weekends, or maybe something that I could take on track. Tiff Niddell said this was a brilliant handling front-wheel drive car. Now, I'm not a great driver. I would put money on Tiff being better than me. And if he thinks it's a good front-wheel drive chassis, well, I'm inclined to agree. It's great, it's enjoyable. Look, I love rear-wheel drive as much as anybody, but there are times when front-wheel drive is actually preferable. Certainly slippery, horrible conditions like we got today are one of those times. If you're looking for your first track day car, you know, people are going to be looking at things like MX-5s or that sort of stuff. Think about one of these. I'm actually one of 3 people that I know that have got one of these as a track day car. In fact, the other 2 people that I know who own one of these as a track day car both own Aston Martin V8 Vantages as daily drivers. They have an Aston Martin that they sit in and drive every single day. And one of the guys, you know, he bought a ZS as a little fun track car just for a couple of track days, just until he found a proper track car. And he says 30 track days later, he's got no interest in getting rid of it. And maybe we should be a little bit thankful that they are currently dirt cheap, because if you bend it, break it, or destroy it, you can replace it without having just trashed your life savings. So there you go, a little brief video, hopefully trying to give some sort of a defense for the humble MG ZS. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.